Hey everybody, welcome back to Vegas Weekly for Saturday, November 20th, 2021. We've got an interesting show for you here today, and everything kind of seems to revolve around Caesars Entertainment, one way or the other. We're going to continue our strip walk today. We make our way down past the Venetian towards Flamingo, and I've got what I think is kind of a cool Vegas/travel related tip. Plus a quick news story. And again, they all kind of connect to Caesars one way or another. Before we get started, I do want to thank those of you who tuned into the live stream on Wednesday. A pretty good turnout. There's actually some halfway decent content. It wasn't just me rambling incessantly for an hour and 15 minutes, though that's part of it. So we did wrap up our series on most memorable Vegas trips. So if you want to check that out, that's kind of in the first, I'd say 45 minutes or so of the show. And in case you missed it, I did announce that I will be returning to Las Vegas on St. Patrick's Day of next year for about 6 days. Be there for the big Keno wedding, March Madness, and so looking forward to that coming up in a few months. Be here before you know it. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get into our news segment this week, and it's all about the World Series of Poker and where it may be headed and what that might mean for a very popular casino name around the country, the Horseshoe. So there are a number of Horseshoe branded resorts around the country. There's been speculation there might be one in Vegas at some point, and this week's news would certainly lend credence to the possibility that that speculation might come true, as it was announced that the Rio would no longer be hosting the WSOP as it has since I believe 2005, 2006. They completely took over that in their rather large meeting space. And that next year it will be moving to Bally's, which also has a fairly large meeting space that's kind of hidden away, tucked away, but it will be hosted by, I guess, Bally's/Paris. And Vince Vaughn of Swingers fame and other motion pictures and such will be the MC of it, I guess. So that was announced this week. So those of you who are big World Series of Poker fans, there you go. It'll be moving to the Las Vegas Strip. Now, it was already speculated that it was going to move to the Las Vegas Strip, but it was supposed to, or the thought was that it would move to the new Caesars Convention Center, which should be nearly completed. The large building activity that was taking place behind the Link in Harrah's, and has been for a couple of years now. But that was speculated to be its future home, but it looks like it's going to be at Bally's instead. So, and speculation, particularly since the Bally's company purchased the Tropicana, or is in the process of acquiring the Tropicana, that they might want to name the Tropicana Bally's, and they would possibly have that opportunity were Bally's itself to be renamed as, let's say, the Horseshoe, the once and future home of the World Series of Poker. There you go. Well, our travels up and down the Strip today will not take us quite as far as Bally's, but we will be moving in that direction. Last week we took a long jaunt through the Venetian and the Palazzo, certainly one of the biggest and most diverse properties on the Strip. And as we make our way now south past the Venetian, we first encounter the little hole-in-the-wall casino, which is simply Casino Royale, with an attached Best Western motel, and the motel theme will recur later in the show as well, so keep that in mind. They are famous typically for cheap bar drinks, not as cheap as they used to be. You used to be able to get like a beer there for $1 or something, or an extremely watered down margarita for $1 at the casino bar. And now most recently, I believe it's a collection of $3 beers, which still beats the price at pretty much any other strip casino bar unless you're playing and winning enough to keep playing. You know, they've had, you know, cheap souvenirs and cheap food. They have the $2.49 foot-long hot dog available in the back of the property in their little food court. And again, a few other inexpensive food options in and around the property. So, you know, it's kind of, I mean, I know there are people that are really fond of Casino Royale and really enjoyed playing there over the years. But it's definitely a throwback casino. And next door to that throwback casino is also a kind of throwback casino, and that is Harrah's, the first of the Caesars properties that you encounter as you work your way south down the Strip. An older property. It began life as a Holiday Inn casino back in the 1970s. It acquired a riverboat facade for a number of years until that was removed in the 1990s. There aren't as many Harrah's around as there used to be. Even the original Harrah's in Reno is now closed. But this one continues to exist and continues to have, much like the Mirage across the street, a very loyal clientele. It is an older property. It's kind of spread out. It's kind of long and has low ceilings and kind of hard to figure out exactly where you're going sometimes. But definitely has some of the friendliest employees anywhere on the Strip. Not the best gaming conditions, but again, there's a number of folks that really enjoy staying there and playing there. And I can understand why. I mean, it is also a very good location. So one of the inexpensive spots available there at what is essentially a run of Caesars properties as you work your way further south down the Strip. As you enter on the north-ish side, there's not a lot on that particular end. There used to be kind of a cowboy or cowgirl themed casino area around there. They had the X Country show there. Harrah's does do a lot of shows, or has traditionally done a lot of shows, and they've kind of done away with a number of those because for years they had maybe 3 or 4 different shows in their showrooms, which were upstairs, including the old Evening at the Improv comedy stop, Mac King. Those are all gone now. It also has a couple of the more interesting bars in Las Vegas. One, the Piano Bar, which you'll see as you exit the casino and head towards the Link, which features, you know, the dueling pianos, the sax guys, Big Elvis, and more or less nightly karaoke. Well, it may not be nightly anymore, but so it's kind of a fun place to hang out. And just outside of Harrah's, again, as you move towards the Link Hotel and Casino, you have the Carnival Court area, another very traditional spot for people who just want to get together, have a few drinks, enjoy some music. Definitely attracts a more mature crowd than a lot of the clubs inside the big casinos. So a popular spot amongst a lot of Vegas veterans along the way. And then you begin to work your way into the Link Hotel and Casino, which, of course, started life many, many years ago as the Flamingo Capri, and for a minute was known throughout the lives of probably most Vegas visitors as the Imperial Palace. It became the Quad, became the Link. It seems to change all the time. They're going to be introducing they're changing up the floor of the place again to incorporate a new Cirque show. We talked about that a few weeks back. It's a smallish casino, and, you know, do you like to play there? You know, hey, it doesn't really have a lot of distinguishing features. It does have a couple of interesting restaurants. As you enter on the Harrah's side, you have the Guy Fieri place, which gets, you know, mixed reviews, but certainly popular amongst some folks. And then upstairs, you have one of the Hash House A Go-Go restaurants in Las Vegas, famous for its huge portions, long lines, and, well, I guess breakfast. So there you go. That's the link. As you exit the link, you find that you are not in the midst immediately of another casino, but of one of the most interesting spaces in Las Vegas, one that we will talk about next week on our strip walk as we work our way along the Link Promenade and perhaps get into the Flamingo, one of the oldest properties on the strip. Okay, so some of the properties that we've just talked about today, actually all the properties we've talked about today, would definitely fall into the sort of budget category. And they're all, with the exception of Casino Royale, are properties that are owned by Caesars Entertainment, formerly Harrah's. You have, and typically, if you play a reasonable amount at any of the Caesars hotels in Las Vegas, you'll get pretty good room offers, including some free nights, particularly during the week, at some of the lower end properties there in Las Vegas. Of course, you'll still be paying the resort fee and there'll be other costs, and it's not always free, obviously. So I found, more or less accidentally, kind of an interesting Vegas tip that I'm going to throw out there. A few years ago, I started visiting my parents up in Nebraska, which you've seen that in the past. They moved into an assisted living facility. There wasn't really a place for me to stay with them. So I started staying at a cheap Days Inn motel, which is only like a mile away from where they live. So very, very convenient, and convenient to a lot of other things as well, which is a Wyndham property. And Wyndham has a relationship with Caesars, as most every, and I covered this in a show a while back too, most every casino sort of group has a relationship with one of these major hotel conglomerate chain things. Caesars is connected with Wyndham. So when I first started booking rooms at this Days Inn, I had, at that time I was a Diamond member with Caesars, so I was able to transfer and I had like elite status with Wyndham. Well, that kind of went out the window. But over the past couple of years, I've visited back in Nebraska a number of times, and I've actually earned quite a few points, Wyndham points, to the point where next year I'll be able to match my platinum status with Wyndham to my platinum status at Caesars, which I will not likely attain, honestly, this year. But there's couple of interesting points that might be of value to some of you, particularly if you travel on business, particularly on your own dime, and you're not necessarily staying at the top end properties, because Wyndham, although it does have some big time resorts, also has a lot of these sort of cheap roadside motels of sort of sometimes dubious quality. They own the two, Wyndham is connected to the two travel lodges on the strip, so that kind of gives you an idea sometimes what you're getting into. So, these are like 2-star hotels at best. So you do have a relationship between the two, and you can convert points back and forth between the two properties. So if you had, for example, 20,000 Wyndham points, you can transfer those to become Caesars reward credits, which, if you have 20,000, guess what? That's worth $200 at various Caesars properties, whether to apply to a hotel bill or to use for a restaurant or some other activity. You can do that. In fact, you can transfer up to 30,000 points a year from Wyndham to Caesars, and again, they transfer point to point. Now, I have managed to accumulate over 30,000 points. Wyndham also does a lot of these little things, stay 2 nights or 3 nights, and you sign up for it, you get like bonus points. So it's fairly easy to get points. If you want to redeem the points at Wyndham, you can. They typically, at a cheaper property, will run you between 7,500 and 15,000 points. At the higher end properties, it's 15,000 to 30,000 points. So keep that in mind. So I would have the ability already to transfer 30,000 points, or essentially $300 worth of reward credits, over to Caesars. However, there's an even better sort of deal out there, long-term anyway, and that is if you apply for one of the Wyndham credit cards and you put $1,000 on the card within 90 days, which isn't hard to do if you just, for basic expenditures, you can earn 45,000 Wyndham points. Now, I think secondarily, if I do another 1,000 in the next 90 days, it's another 15,000. So up to 60,000. And I think there's a credit card, a business card available that you can earn up to 90,000 Wyndham miles or Wyndham points. And again, keep in mind, those are transferable to Caesars. So ultimately, I have earned 45,000 points. I now have 81,000 Wyndham points. And that is conceivably transferable over time anyway to Caesars at a 1-to-1 ratio. So in addition to the $250 worth of reward credits that I have with Caesars, I should be able, and probably will over the next couple of months, transfer 30,000 of my Wyndham points over to Caesars, which I can then use at various casinos all over the world, but including, perhaps mostly, Las Vegas. So a little bit convoluted there, and I think we went a little long today, but I thought there was a useful trick, particularly again for kind of low rollers, but maybe don't gamble a lot, so maybe don't get a lot of free rooms or paying the resort fees, things like that. Again, if you've got reasonably good credit, you travel a little bit, you stay at some of these cheaper motels, you can turn those cheap motel stays into some Las Vegas adventures. So there you go. All right, speaking of Las Vegas adventures, and I did allude to this on the Wednesday night live stream, we are this week going to start on the Vegas Tips and Tricks podcast. We're going to begin a series which is just going to be called Vegas Memories, and we'll take it right from there. People seem to like that, so we're going to talk about that. Probably the next episode will probably be up on Monday because I have the day off. So there you go. All right, well, I hope today's news and information was useful to you. I hope our tip may save you some money over the next year or so. And we'll be back on Wednesday. We've got a special taste test coming up for an episode of the Wednesday show. And, of course, we'll be back next Saturday with another episode of Vegas Weekly. Until then, I hope that you all have a great, lucky, and healthy week. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.